From a distance, the UNSS Thunderchild resembled a metal leviathan against the canvas of stars. 17 kilometers from bow to stern, the human warship dwarfed even the largest vessels in the Galactic Alliance's combined fleets. Ambassador Kiloth of the Varan Confederation stood on the observation deck of his diplomatic shuttle, mandibles clicking in disbelief as they approached the colossal vessel. "Impossible," he whispered to his aide. "No species could build something so excessive." His human escort, Lieutenant Adams, smiled with unmistakable pride. "The Thunderchild is actually mid-sized for our deep space fleet, Ambassador. Our largest vessels are nearly twice this length." The Varan diplomat's compound eyes widened. Humans had only joined the galactic community 70 years ago, refugees from a system ravaged by civil war. Most species had expected them to fade into obscurity, accepting their place as newcomers. Instead, they had built this. As the shuttle circled the behemoth, Kiloth observed the ship's angular, asymmetrical design. Unlike the sleek, organic curves preferred by most spacefaring species, the human vessel embraced harsh geometry, all sharp edges and unexpected protrusions. "The exterior hull is 30 meters thick at its thinnest point," Adams explained, "composed of layered titanium tungsten alloys and carbon nanowave. The outer shell can withstand direct hits from most conventional weapons without compromising the interior compartments." Kiloth noted the absence of external lights or decorative elements. The ship's charcoal gray exterior absorbed rather than reflected light, making it difficult to gauge its true dimensions. Only the occasional flash of maneuvering thrusters or the red warning beacons along its spine betrayed its presence against the void. "Your design philosophy seems utilitarian," Kiloth observed diplomatically. Adams nodded. "Form follows function. Every element serves a purpose. Those ridge structures house radiator fins for heat dissipation. The protrusions along the midline contain sensor arrays and point defense systems. Nothing is there for aesthetics alone." The shuttle banked around the ship's bow, revealing the most distinctive feature of human warships, the massive magnetic accelerator cannon that ran nearly half the vessel's length. Even dormant, the weapon exuded menace, its muzzle large enough to swallow smaller ships whole. "We call it the Spear of God," Adams said, following the ambassador's gaze. "It can accelerate a 200-ton tungsten rod to 15% of light speed. The kinetic energy on impact exceeds anything short of a tactical nuclear device." As they approached the docking bay, a cavernous opening in the ship's ventral section, Kiloth finally understood why humans had risen so quickly among the stars. Other species built warships as a regrettable necessity. Humans built them as expressions of their very nature. They didn't just survive conflict. They mastered it. The shuttle descended into the massive hangar, passing through the atmospheric barrier. The Thunderchild had swallowed them whole, just as humanity had devoured the stars they touched. The interior of the Thunderchild hummed with a symphony of mechanical and electronic systems, each playing its part in the grand orchestration of human warfare. Captain Morgan Reed stood in the central engineering complex, 3 decks high and spanning the width of the ship's midsection. This was the true heart of the vessel, more vital than the bridge itself. "The Thunderchild operates on a triple redundant design philosophy," he explained to Ambassador Kiloth. "Every critical system has at least 2 backups, each capable of operating independently if the others fail." The central feature of engineering was the antimatter reactor core, a suspended sphere of containment fields and magnetic bottles, pulsing with blue-white energy. It was protected by 16 separate containment systems, any 3 of which could maintain stability alone. 14 terawatts of continuous power, Chief Engineer Torres said as she joined them, wiping grease from her hands. "Enough to power a small continent. We use about 60% for propulsion, 20% for weapon systems, and the rest for life support and other operations." Behind the reactor lay the propulsion systems, a combination of conventional fusion drives for sublight travel and the massive Alcubierre warp engines that allowed faster-than-light travel. The warp engines alone occupied nearly a third of the ship's internal volume, folding space-time like fabric to propel the massive vessel between stars. Most species rely on universal standard designs, Torres continued. We had to develop our own. Human physiological requirements are more demanding than galactic averages. Higher oxygen demands, more stringent gravity needs, greater temperature sensitivity. The ambassador followed as they moved to the life support section. Unlike the sterile, minimalist designs favored by most species, human environmental systems were robust to the point of redundancy. 6 separate atmospheric processors, each capable of sustaining the entire crew, worked in concert. Water reclamation systems operated at 99.8% efficiency, recovering even the moisture from human breath. Your species seems uncommonly concerned with survival, Kiloth observed. Captain Reed nodded. When your homeworld is as volatile as Earth, preparation becomes second nature. We design for worst-case scenarios. The tour continued through the damage control centers, where teams of technicians monitored every centimeter of the massive ship. Automatic repair systems, swarms of maintenance drones and mechanical waldos, stood ready to patch hull breaches or reroute damaged systems. Most impressive were the neural networks that tied the ship together, quantum computers meshed with human-based algorithms that could make decisions faster than organic brains. The Thunderchild wasn't simply a vessel. It was a hybrid entity, part machine and part human intent. Our AI systems don't replace human judgment, Reed explained. They enhance it. The final decisions always rest with the crew. As they passed through a narrow corridor, the ambassador noticed something unexpected: a garden. Actual plants grew in hydroponic chambers, providing both supplemental oxygen and fresh produce. Psychological welfare, Reed said, following his gaze. Long deployments take a toll. We've learned the hard way that humans need more than just functionality to thrive. This was the paradox of human engineering, ruthlessly practical in design, yet strangely attentive to intangible needs. The Thunderchild wasn't merely a weapon of war. It was a complete ecosystem designed to project human power across the stars. The mess hall of the Thunderchild buzzed with activity during the third shift rotation. Nearly 500 crew members, a small fraction of the ship's total complement of 8,000, filled the space with conversation and laughter. Despite being on a warship capable of devastating entire planets, the atmosphere was surprisingly relaxed. "The mess never closes," explained Commander Wilson, the ship's executive officer, as he guided Ambassador Kiloth through the crowded facility. With 4 shift rotations, someone's always having breakfast while someone else is having dinner. The ambassador watched as crew members from different departments mingled freely. Engineers in oil-stained coveralls shared tables with tactical officers in crisp uniforms. The rigid hierarchy Kiloth had expected was present but understated. Ranks were indicated by subtle insignia rather than ostentatious displays. "Your crew seems uncommonly casual," he observed. Wilson smiled. "Don't let the relaxed demeanor fool you. Every person on this ship has undergone at least 4 years of specialized training. What you're seeing is confidence, not carelessness." The training facilities occupied 3 full decks of the massive vessel. As they toured the areas, Kiloth witnessed crew members engaging in everything from zero-gravity combat drills to simulated engineering emergencies. One particularly large chamber contained a full replica of the bridge, where junior officers practiced command scenarios. Each crew member must qualify in their primary specialty and at least 2 others, Wilson explained. The communications officer can also run tactical systems. The medical staff can operate environmental controls. Cross-training ensures we're never crippled by casualties in a single department. Most impressive was the psychological rigor of the training. In one simulation chamber, a team worked calmly to repair a hull breach while emergency klaxons blared, and the room was deliberately flooded with harmless but disorienting smoke. "Stress inoculation," Wilson said. "We expose them to controlled chaos repeatedly until maintaining focus becomes second nature." The living quarters were Spartan but comfortable. private cubicles for officers and shared dormitories for enlisted personnel. Each living space, no matter how small, contained personal touches, photographs, books, small mementos from Earth or colony worlds. 12-month standard deployments. Wilson continued. The longest we've ever gone without returning to port was 26 months during the Arcturus conflict. Maintaining morale becomes a tactical consideration at that point. They passed a recreation deck where off-duty personnel engaged in sports, games, and creative pursuits. A small group performed music, while others watched or participated in virtual reality simulations. The Thunderchild isn't just a weapons platform, Wilson said. It's a self-contained society. Some crew members have served on this vessel for over a decade. They celebrate birthdays, form relationships, mourn losses. Life continues, even in the void. As they walked, a young technician approached Commander Wilson with a question about duty rotations. The exchange was respectful but direct, no excessive formality or obsequiousness. The commander listened, made a decision, and the technician departed with a nod. Our greatest strength isn't our technology, Wilson confided after the technician left. It's our people. Every other species in the Alliance designs ships to minimize crew requirements. We maximize them. In combat, that human element, the ability to innovate, to improvise, to refuse surrender, makes all the difference. Kiloth finally understood. The Thunderchild wasn't merely powered by antimatter, it was powered by human will. The Combat Information Center of the Thunderchild hummed with focused energy as Admiral Bryant led Ambassador Kiloth through the secured blast doors. Unlike the bridge with its commanding views and ceremonial function, this was where battles were actually fought and won, a windowless chamber deep within the armored core of the vessel. Most species place their command centers near the exterior, Bryant explained. For the psychological comfort of seeing space, we prefer 20 decks of armor between our decision-makers and enemy fire. Tactical officers monitored three-dimensional holographic displays showing simulated engagements. The ambassador noted how the simulations favored overwhelming force. The human vessels never engaged enemies one-on-one when they could bring 3-to-1 odds. Your approach seems excessive, Kiloth observed. Bryant's expression remained neutral. We don't believe in fair fights, Ambassador. The purpose of military engagements isn't to demonstrate prowess. It's to accomplish objectives with minimal losses. Overwhelming force accomplishes that. The weapons control station occupied a raised platform in the center, where 4 operators monitored different systems. The primary armament, the massive spinal-mounted kinetic cannon, required its own dedicated team, while secondary weapons were grouped by quadrants. Kinetics remain our preferred engagement method, Bryant continued. While most species have shifted to energy weapons exclusively, we find properly accelerated mass has advantages that can't be matched by lasers or plasma. The tactical display shifted to show the Thunderchild's defensive systems, layers of point defense weapons, interceptor drones, and electronic countermeasures. Unlike offensive systems, which favored brute force, the defensive approach was sophisticated and multilayered. 428 individual countermeasure systems, the weapons officer, Lieutenant Davis, explained. They operate semi-autonomously, with microsecond response times. Our philosophy is to create a defense in depth, multiple overlapping systems that degrade an attack before it can reach the hull. The electronic warfare suite was particularly impressive, a combination of jamming technologies, sensor spoofers, and cyber attack systems designed to blind and confuse enemy vessels before physical weapons were even deployed. We call it fighting blind, Bryant said. In most engagements, the enemy's first indication of our presence is when their systems begin to fail. By the time they can see us clearly, the kinetic rounds are already inbound. They moved to a sealed chamber where the ship's most classified systems were controlled, autonomous combat drones. Hundreds of fighter-sized vessels could be deployed from the Thunderchild's launch bays, each controlled by a hybrid AI system with human oversight. The drones serve as our force multiplier, Bryant explained. Each one carries enough firepower to threaten a small capital ship, and they operate in coordinated swarms. What truly distinguished human combat doctrine, however, was its adaptability. In the training simulators, officers weren't graded on following procedures, but on their ability to improvise when those procedures failed. Most species develop a tactical doctrine and adhere to it rigidly, Bryant said. We assume any doctrine will fail under pressure. Our advantage isn't having better plans. It's adapting faster when plans go wrong. The Admiral activated a final display showing historical battle data. The ambassador noted with surprise that the Thunderchild had suffered serious damage in several engagements. You seem willing to accept damage, he observed. Bryant nodded. Warships are tools, Ambassador. They're meant to be used, even damaged, even lost, if necessary. The ship serves the mission, not the other way around. That willingness to risk everything. That's what most species find difficult to counter. The message was clear. The Thunderchild wasn't merely built to fight. It was built to win at any cost. The observation deck of the Thunderchild offered a panoramic view of the shipyards orbiting Jupiter, where the next generation of human warships took shape. Massive skeletal frameworks extended for kilometers, swarming with construction drones and EVA teams. Ambassador Kiloff stood in reverent silence, watching history unfold before him. The Thunderchild class will be decommissioned within the decade, Admiral Bryant said quietly. She's already obsolete by our standards. The Prometheus vessels you see being constructed are 30% larger, with twice the effective combat power. Kiloff's antennae twitched in disbelief. Your species has been spacefaring for less than a century. The pace of your military evolution is unprecedented. Bryant nodded toward the nearest construction site, where a massive ring structure, easily 20 kilometers in diameter, was taking shape. That's not a warship, Ambassador. That's a mobile shipyard. We're building ships that build ships. Self-replicating industrial capacity. The implication wasn't lost on the Varan diplomat. Humanity wasn't simply building a fleet. They were creating an exponential growth engine. Each generation of vessels would construct the next, larger generation, expanding faster than any biological reproduction rate could match. When we first entered the galactic community, Bryant continued, many species viewed us as refugees, survivors of our own destructive tendencies. They expected us to be grateful for sanctuary, to integrate quietly into existing power structures. The Admiral's expression hardened. They failed to understand that what nearly destroyed us also defined us. We fought ourselves to the brink of extinction and learned from it. The Civil War that devastated Earth taught us that hesitation leads to annihilation. Through the viewport, a testing range came into view. A prototype weapon mounted on a barren asteroid fired a stream of plasma that cut through a decommissioned cruiser like tissue paper. The vessel, itself large enough to house thousands, split apart in silent agony. Every human warship carries the legacy of Earth's darkest hours, Bryant said. We build them not because we desire war, but because we understand its inevitability. The Galactic Alliance has enjoyed 10,000 years of relative peace, which has led to complacency. We haven't had that luxury. What Kiloff found most disturbing wasn't the technological prowess on display, but the philosophical underpinnings. Humans didn't view their warships as regrettable necessities. They saw them as expressions of their highest virtues: ingenuity, determination, sacrifice. The Thunderchild isn't just a weapon, Bryant said, seeming to read the ambassador's thoughts. It's a statement of intent. It declares that humanity will never again be at the mercy of forces beyond our control, whether they be natural disasters, internal conflicts, or external threats. As if to punctuate this declaration, the shipyard's fabrication lasers ignited simultaneously, cutting massive plates of armor that would form the hull of the next flagship. The flash momentarily turned night to day, casting harsh shadows across the observation deck. Most species in the Alliance build weapons and pray they never need to use them, Bryant continued. We build weapons and train relentlessly to use them with maximum efficiency. Not because we're bloodthirsty, but because we understand that proficiency deters aggression. Peace through strength isn't just a slogan. It's the foundation of our survival strategy. Kiloth finally understood the truth that many in the Alliance had been reluctant to acknowledge. Humanity hadn't joined galactic society. They had merely extended their sphere of influence to include it. The Thunderchild and her sister ships weren't built to protect human interests within the existing order. They were built to reshape that order itself. Your species moves very quickly, Admiral, Kiloth said diplomatically. Bryant's smile held no warmth. We have to, Ambassador. The universe doesn't give second chances. The Thunderchild isn't just our past or our present. It's the foundation of our future, a future forged in fire, tempered by sacrifice, and utterly determined to endure. As the observation deck fell silent, the vast shipyards continued their relentless work, building the vessels that would carry humanity's legacy to the stars, whether those stars welcomed them or not.